Okay, well, it's 5 o'clock. We better call the October 18th Algona City Council to order. Roll call.
Brad.
Here.
Rodney.
Here.
Tyler.
Here.
Don.
Here.
Here.
And I'm filling in for the mayor. He's gone on a trip, so let's start the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we have a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
I'll second.
It's Rodney and Jody. Roll call.
Brad.
Yes.
Rodney.
Yes.
Tyler.
Yes.
Don.
Yes.
Jody. Yes.
Yes. And across the mayor's desk, because the mayor is gone, I don't have a lot to tell you, but I will tell anybody who's watching the delayed broadcast here that Kayla Thompson was the person running the camera, so thank you for doing that. Let's get an update from the city administrator.
A few items. Reminder that citywide Halloween trick-or-treating is scheduled for Sunday, October 31st from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. And then also wanted to make the public aware of an upcoming public input meeting we'll be having for Central Park on Thursday, October 28th from 5 to 6:30 p.m. at the Central Park Shelter House. We'll be reviewing the concept design for the skate park to get input, receive feedback on that, as well as gathering input on what other features and amenities people would like to see in that park as we develop plans for that. So that's Thursday, October 28th from 5 to 6:30. And then also just a reminder that we have city elections coming up on November 2nd.
Okay.
Oh, and then one more item. Like to have Lori Walton come to the podium, our library director, and provide an update on the library renovation.
Great.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Hi, Lori.
Well, we're very excited, but I have good news and bad news. And a lot of people have been asking me about the exterior of the library and why haven't we started that? When will we start it? Because we're working with an older building and we don't have the original construction plans, there are a lot of unknowns. And we have been working with several engineers. We haven't been working, but the architect has, to determine the best way to add the exterior enhancements that we have approved. And so that's delayed the process a little bit. And my bad news is that I think this conversation is still ongoing, and once they do determine the best way to place those materials, we've been told there's a 4-month order to delivery date. So if that's true, and it turns out that way, that means we're looking at a spring construction of the exterior, which in the big picture, it's okay. We're okay with that. The good news, if anyone was out and about today, you may have seen a semi up here, and the steel shelving that I had originally thought would be here and then was told it might be middle of November to the end of November actually arrived today, and they're setting that up.
Okay.
So once the shelves are set up, once the punch list is complete, which is very close to being completed, we'll be able to start putting books on the shelf and move back. So we're very excited about that. It's a good step in the right direction. Do you have anything else you'd like to add?
I know there's still some things up in the air about the timeline on hopefully making that move in operations.
I've been told that the shelves should be up this week, but please give them a couple more days next week. I haven't heard yet if we're having a construction meeting again tomorrow. If we do, the architect will be here and we'll be looking at some of the punch list items. So I have my fingers crossed, and I'm really hoping that we'll be able to start putting books on the shelf in a couple of weeks. I am looking for any service groups that might be interested in helping us move the books from the temporary location to the new location. If anyone's interested, give me a call, let me know. Any other items?
Well,
Any questions?
I was glad to hear you do those in the order you did. I was afraid you're gonna say, it's gonna look great on the outside, but we don't have any shelves yet. So I'd rather have the functional part completed, and this way, when the other is finished in the spring, you can have another grand reopening, so you know, it's an
Several parties
opportunity.
may be occurring.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Anyway,
Lori.
thank you very
Yeah.
much.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now citizens' opportunity to address the council on any items that are not on the agenda. Do we have anybody on the phone who's, nobody there? Okay. Okay, anybody here on council? Okay, let's move forward then on the consent agenda. Approved minutes of the October 1st council meeting. Put my glasses on here. Approve appropriating resolutions. Approve department reports. Minutes of various boards and commissions and administrators report. Do we have a motion to approve?
Move to approve. Second.
Okay, Don and Rodney. Roll call?
Brad,
Yes.
Rodney,
Yes.
Tyler,
Yes.
Don,
Yes.
Jody. Yes. Harley.
Yes. And the first item on the regular agenda then is the public hearing. It's a public hearing regarding disposition of certain property pursuant to minimum development requirements and competitive bids in response to proposed sale of Keek Industrial Park property to Fratco. Any comments on that?
Yeah, I'm just pulling up the affidavit here. So this is a public hearing regarding the proposed sale, city-owned property of Lot 7 of the Keek Industrial Park to Fratco. With that, there are a development agreement outlining a number of terms that will be up for a decision on line item 11. Agenda item 11. So this is just a public hearing as required when the city goes to sell property on the proposed sale and development agreement with Fratco. Under the general conditions, the property would be sold at a rate of $40,000 per acre, 8.53 acres, $30,000 per acre would be paid in cash. The other $10,000 would be on a forgivable loan based on meeting job performance criteria, as well as the city retaining a right of first refusal on the property as well. Happy to answer any questions on this item.
Any comments? Okay, I should have mentioned we opened this public hearing at 5:02. If there are no questions or comments, we'll close.
I think we've talked about it the last few
Yeah,
weeks, so
we
I
have.
think we're all pretty comfortable.
Well, let's close this public hearing at,
Mayor,
Oh,
you
yes.
said 5:02. It was not 5:02. Right now it's 5:09.
but,
Yeah, we didn't have sex.
okay, but I opened it before the, before Jake's comments.
Okay.
So just for the sake of things, we want to just formally open the public hearing.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's
We'll just do it all over.
formally open, I'll hammer it in, a
Okay.
public hearing. So now we're open to any comments on this proposed sale to Fratco. And not hearing any, we'll close the public hearing at 5:10. Okay, we'll move on to new business. An ordinance amending city code, Sanitary sewer services charges, first reading.
This ordinance amends the city's sanitary sewer rate structure by adding a new fee, a sewer infrastructure fee. The amount of the fee is based on the service line, the water service line to the property. The theory behind that being that the size of the water meter correlates with the amount of water usage as well as the capacity that the wastewater plant has to handle or be able to handle whether or not they're fully using that usage or not. The fee structure is showing up there on the screen. It ranges from $4 for 5/8 3/4 inch meter up to 6-inch meter. For the vast majority, let me just pull up here. For the vast majority of users, more than 90%, it will be the $4 per month sewer infrastructure fee. For the average residential user, and these were numbers put together by Suzanne Gerlach of PFM on the average residential user in Algona, it was at $25.48 per month on their sewer bill. Under this rate structure, the average residential user would see their rate increase by $29.48 per month. Based on the users and meter size of our current customers, we're projecting that annually this fee will generate approximately $149,000. As we discussed at previous meetings, we're looking at having to increase our annual sewer revenues by about 50% over the coming years. So this will be step one, what we envision be a multi-step series of increases. Earlier this year, council approved WHKS Engineering to conduct a rate analysis, which is currently underway. Since we have to increase our rates so significantly due to our upcoming sewer project, which is mandated by our permit, this will be step one, and then future increases we imagine will be based off the findings or recommendations that come in that report, so we can get our revenues up to where they need to be in order to pay for the project and fund our debt service for the project.
Okay, so to be clear for the public, they need to first understand that our sewer system financially is a closed loop. Basically, what comes in is used to rebuild the system. And so it's your charges that you pay every month that go to rebuild the system. And because the DNR has some pretty major requirements that we need to be at by, 2026?
That's when construction, final optimization, that would have to be in compliance at, but to hit that timeline, we're already right now under preliminary design.
Yes, so people need to understand that there are going to be some increases in the sewer because of the requirements mandated by the DNR. So we're going to have to spend some money on our system.
We're looking at, construction period probably getting in 2024 to 2025, and an estimated capital construction cost of 13 to 15 million. And so that's what between then and now, or now and then, that's what we'll be doing these series of rate increases, as opposed to, as we talked about scenarios of, doing a 40% rate increase in 1 year. People don't like to see that, so this will allow us to step it up. And yes, and to the point, thanks for pointing that out, Mayor, that the sewer fund is an enterprise fund, so all the revenue that is generated by that stays within the sewer system. General property tax dollars don't go into it because it's a utility. So operations and capital is all paid out of the sewer user fees, and that's the necessity for the increase.
Okay, so we, having that explained here, we need to go into the first reading of the ordinance before we pass it, unless somebody wants to pass on that.
Yeah, I'd make a motion, we waive the first reading.
Okay, that's Rodney and Tyler. So, roll call?
Brett,
Yes.
Rodney.
Yes.
Tyler.
Yes.
Don.
Yes.
Jody.
Yes.
Harley.
Yes. Got ahead.
And then motion to approve the first reading.
Second.
Okay, Rodney and Don. Roll call?
Brett,
Yes.
Rodney.
Yes.
Tyler.
Yes.
Don.
Yes.
Jody.
Yes.
Harley.
Yes. Okay, so the first reading is passed. Move on to item 11, resolution making final determination on potential sale of interest in real estate property, approving, authorizing execution of a purchase, sale, and development agreement by and between the city and Fratco. This is what the public hearing was about earlier.
I'll let Barb, if you want to provide an overview on this since you will be discussion with the attorneys in Crackville.
This is just stating that we went out for bid for price per acre on the property. We published it in the paper. We received no other bids besides the Fratco bid. So this will approve moving forward with the sale of the property and approve the development agreement with Fratco.
Okay, do we have any motions to approve?
Move to approve the resolution.
Second.
Okay, Don and Brad, roll call?
Brett,
Yes.
Rodney.
Yes.
Tyler.
Yes.
Don.
Yes.
Jody.
Yes.
Harley.
Yes. Item number 12, a resolution approving annual street financial report.
State code requires that all cities annually submit a street finance report to the Iowa Department of Transportation on how the city spent local as well as city road use tax dollars. So this resolution just approves that street finance report so the clerk can submit it to the state for review.
We have a motion on that.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, Rodney and Jody, roll call?
Brett,
Yes.
Rodney.
Yes.
Tyler.
Yes.
Don.
Yes.
Jody.
Yes.
Harley.
Yes. 13, a resolution approving service agreement, general code? General code
is a company that we're recommending the city enter into a contract with as part of an effort to digitize our records and then maintain a database for that. So as you can imagine, as a government, there are a variety of records that we have to keep forever. Minutes, ordinances, resolutions, things like that, as well as a number of different other documents that have to be saved from anywhere from 1 to 70 years, which is why we have a vault in the basement full of paper. One of the things, when we're going back and doing research and we pull some of these documents out that can be very fragile and something you don't want to handle too often. So that internally kind of brought up the discussion of, well, we should look at digitizing those documents so we have them easily accessible. We're not having to, potentially damage any of these historic documents dating back to pre-1900, some of them. Once we got that discussion going, it turned into, really with the expectation of access to records and being able to internally as well as the public find and pull up public records, it probably makes sense to not just our, extremely historic documents, but start moving all of our records to a digital record. And so what this agreement is, city staff had researched a few different options on how we go about doing that. The best system that they found was Laserfish, and so with that, then we worked with a few different service providers for that on their different packages of how we would go about digitizing and then maintaining that system. Staff's recommendation was overall to go with general code. So what this contract is for a one-time fee of $3,500, and then a 3-year support contract for $5,000 a year for 3 years. And the reason we chose this one is more or less a turnkey proposal for us, and that we're a small enough city that we don't have our own internal IT, so when there's issues, we need to make sure that our service providers can provide that for us, and not just something, access systems you manage our IT. Predominantly they're great, but if it's not an access system, they don't touch it. So this will allow, them, basically this system will have, any tech support we need as we need it, it will be available. And also that one-time fee they will set up, work with us on how we want to organize these files, best practices combined with what makes the most sense for us, and then setting up those templates as well. So when we start scanning these documents in, it can automatically recognize them as, oh, it's a resolution, this is where the number is, this is the title. It can autofill those fields in, put them on a cloud server, and then city staff, when we're looking for a document, we can search by a document number if it's a resolution, or by a keyword. And then, also looking at things like building permits, boards and commissions. There's really endless of what we can do in terms of moving forward, digitizing. And the other nice component about this is we could select files once we get this in place that we want to set up. So if the public wants to access all of our city ordinances, they can do that through this system. And the other thing to note on this is they will be stored by general code on a cloud, but they'll be in a PDF format that's word searchable, but we will own those records. So if for some reason we were to terminate this contract early or decide to switch vendors, we would retain those records and be able to slide them into a different system if for some reason, in the future, we were to go in a different direction. So that is the proposal. Deb, do you have anything to add to that?
Only general code was created for municipal governments, and the pre-built older structure, everything's right there for us, and just the support and the resources they have to offer.
One thing you really haven't touched on is how are you going to go about scanning all the old documents? I mean, that's actually a huge project. I was involved with a company before that went through that, and it took a lot of extra people to get the job done.
We're planning right now, we've discussed, is in our Deputy City Clerk Nancy Lindell's office, is setting up a workstation with the scanner there. Because we can have templates that auto read and then filter these, that a lot of the documents, as long as they're not like on onion paper or like something that's really fragile, we can just stick them in the copy machine, and then we'll go through them all and then automatically sort them for us. But some of those older documents are ones that don't, for some reason, catch on the way they should have with the template. We're going to set up a scanner and have Nancy do those periodically as time is here and there. But imagine this will be an ongoing effort for probably several years, because there's really no place where we could stop on this. I mean, cemetery records are another one that when we just started counting up of all the things that we have and the necessity for maintaining those, and then just internally when you're trying to find those, let alone the public, and being available to them, it's like it really makes sense to move towards getting these digitized, because that's only going to be see more of that in the future. I do recognize that this is the first time we've brought this to council, so if we want to table it and consider it further, perfectly understand that. Like I said, we investigated a few different providers, and the staff that will be working with this was the company that they were most comfortable with. The reason we're bringing it to council as well is, since this wasn't a line item in the budget, that's why we would ask for approval before entering into the contract.
Actually, my opinion is it's something that needs to be done, and the sooner the better. So, if you don't do it today, you're going to have to scan tomorrow's papers too. So, the sooner the better.
the pile will just keep growing.
Yes.
But I agree, it's a good idea. I was thinking, kind of what Harley was thinking too, is this something you want to see that's done more quickly? Do you want to look at like getting an intern for the summer? I mean, that's what we did. We brought in college students or, you know, somebody that was working around that wanted some extra hours. Maybe consider that,
I agree
but.
with Jody on that too.
Yeah, I mean, you could just, then Nancy, she already probably has her day-to-day stuff to do, and, but that would probably require setting up the equipment and having another computer for that person, but,
Well, again, as we move towards implementation, yeah, that's something we can certainly look at is, hiring seasonal or interns to help us out with that, to move it along quicker.
And I don't think it's a bad idea to just get started on it internally so that
Yeah.
you understand the process and what
Working
needs to be
kinks
done.
out.
yeah, right.
So then you can more wisely hire somebody or employ them for a while, whatever.
I just have another question. Did you guys kind of discuss like their security, what they do for that, or did you get a good sense that they have a good reputation with that?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know that we talked a whole lot about that,
Okay,
but just overall, very professional and
okay. I don't know
Local
what,
Code is who
yeah.
publishes and manages the international building codes, so they're,
Okay.
very, very reputable.
Okay, I didn't know how much confidential stuff we have in there, but, you know, just for cyber hacks or, you know, cyber security, I guess
The
I'm
vast
thinking.
majority of the documents we'll be scanning will be, public documents. There are some requirements that we have on like the HR side of, anyone that applies and we interview for them. I think that one is one that we have to keep for 70 years on file. So those, if we want to look at, making digital records of those so we can dispose of the hard copies, that would be one we would have to look at to make sure it's protected, because obviously, only certain people would be able to need to have access to that, not a public interface.
Yeah. They should be able to lock down files for you,
I've
I
worked
would think.
with Laserfish before when we're a city, and we did set it up. We had a separate user ID for personnel that only personnel and I could get into, and then we had the other user for the public documents.
Okay. That's just something we probably want to keep safe for employees and stuff.
Now, do we have a good system in place for going forward then? That everything we deal with in the future automatically goes to that? Or can we avoid paper as much as possible and just send it directly?
yeah, that's what the plan is.
Okay.
Yeah, so basically any of the new documents that we make, we'll be able to just take that PDF and slide it into the system, and then we'll take it and sort it and file it the way it needs to be. So as we go, we can just feed those documents into it and not have to actually scan them in.
Yeah. Obviously, there'll be some paper, but hopefully as little as possible. Okay, what's the council's feeling on this? We want to pass this? Are you comfortable with this proposal?
I think I am. If it's mainly used by municipalities, I assume we can easily talk to others if we haven't, and I'm assuming we probably have, hopefully talk to other cities that are using it, and if they've been comfortable and secure with it, then I feel it's probably a good move.
And if you guys have already looked at other companies too, I think that's always an important step to make sure that which one you like the best and which one's the best fit. So sounds like you guys have done that, so.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve the agreement.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, Jody and Brad had the motions. Roll call?
Brad?
Yes.
Rodney?
Yes.
Tyler?
Yes.
Ron?
Yes.
Jody?
Yes.
Harley?
Yes. Okay, number 14, resolution approving work order number 1 for Master Professional Services with BMI Engineering Services for next year's North McCoy Street Reconstruction Project.
This resolution approves work order number 1 to the master engineering agreement the city has with Bolton, Maine. As we recall, when we did our bonding this last year and putting on our street plan, we had identified North McCoy for reconstruction in 2022. So this work order gives direction to Bolton, Maine to begin collecting data before the snow flies in terms of getting the survey done. So that information then can be put together, and then over winter they would do preliminary and final design and looking at bidding the project in probably the early months of 2022. So the total amount of the contract not to exceed is $206,500, and that includes project administration, field data collection, preliminary and final design, as well as bidding services. And so this would be for the 5 blocks of North McCoy Street, by Garrigan there, from Poplar Street to Highway 18.
Okay, do we have a motion on this first step on McCoy Street?
Motion to approve the agreement for professional services.
Second.
Okay, Rodney and Tyler, roll call?
Rod?
Yes.
Rodney?
Yes.
Tyler?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Jody?
Yes.
Harley?
Yes. Number 15, approve pay application number 5 for North Main Street reconstruction project.
I'm going to have a project engineer, Matt Cole, come up and speak on this and the next few projects that we have with streets, as well as provide an update. So this pay application from Reddings is for $124,671.23 for the North Main Street project.
Thank you, Jacob. Council, yes, the next 3 agenda items are the pay estimates for the 3 street projects. We'll give a little update. Main Street, this pay estimate is the final concrete work, seating, signage, all that kind of stuff that we had to do to get the street open. Not really anything left to do out on Main Street, some very minor punch list items that will probably get taken care of yet this year. The grass is already starting to poke up, starting to grow, so that's looking good. Main Street, or Moore Street, sorry, we got all the paving done 2 weeks ago, and McGregor Street is back open. The concrete work is scheduled to continue this week and finish up early next week at the latest. Backfilling and signage and parking lot striping needed to get that street opened up, so hopefully late October, very early November to get Moore Street back open. Snap-on Drive in the industrial park, working on underground utilities still. On the south end, they have started pavement removal and subcutting for grading for pavement preparation on the north end. We do have a change order coming for that job with a storm sewer pipe that was not where we thought it was with the design and with the city's GIS. Started digging and there was no pipe in the location where we thought it was. So it does turn and go through Snap-on and White Transfer's property. It runs on private property, so we're investigating some existing easements to see if there's any utility easements currently where those pipes are, to see what the next step is with the city acquiring easements to get those. We do have a workaround running new pipe down to Poplar Street on the east side of Snap-on Drive. So we're get some pricing from Reading to construct that work. We do have enough materials on site with the original plan to do all the work within the street to not delay any concrete work this year yet. So the plan is to still get the street paved. So yeah, working on a change order, just so you're aware, the next meeting there probably will be a change order for some storm sewer work on Snap-on Drive. And the mill and overlay project is fully paved now, finished up Friday night. Backfilling is almost complete on the streets that where work was completed. We're going to dormant seed that project as well, probably middle of November once it cools down enough to not germinate any seed. And yeah, all the streets are open. A little cleanup work and some seeding, and that job will be completed. Any questions on any of the projects?
Looking at the positive side of Snap-on Drive there, our GIS system is now more accurate than it was a month ago. I'm sure that's a constant battle with old pipes.
Yep. Yeah, it's actually, I mean, finding it and figuring out where the existing storm sewer actually ran, there was blind connections, no manholes where the pipe just changed directions, so, it was apparently built in the 80s sometime, so, Reading was actually able to find some plans on a water main project they did out there that had some information that we tracked down and discovered, you know, where the pipe went, and the city came out and did some televising to find the blind bend under the grass, and we've got a workaround for getting it routed to some storm sewer that functions.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
So, number 15, the North Main Street reconstruction project. Do we have a motion on that?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, so Tyler and Jody, roll call?
Brad,
Yes.
Rodney,
Yes.
Tyler,
Yes.
Don,
Yes.
Jody,
Yes.
Harley.
Yes. And number 16, the Morse Street Snap-on Drive project. We have motion on that.
I'll move to approve pay app number 3.
Second.
Okay, Jody and Rodney, roll call?
Brad,
Yes.
Rodney,
Yes.
Tyler,
Yes.
Don,
Yes.
Jody.
Yes.
And yes.
Oh, sorry. Rodney.
I know, you don't usually have to call it the person in this chair. Number 17, the mill and overlay projects. Do we have motion on that?
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Okay, so, was that Brad? And Don?
Yeah.
The roll call?
Brad,
Yes.
Rodney,
Yes.
Tyler,
Yes.
Don,
Yes.
Jody,
Yes.
Harley.
Yes. And 18, Teats Park Shelter House. I had to drive out there today and I see there's a roof on it now. Or the
Yes.
beginnings of a roof.
Yes, trusts were set last week, so this is pay application number 3 for the Teach Park Shelter House project in the amount of $44,681.96. The balance to finish, including retainage, is $293,073.34.
Motion to approve pay application.
I'll second.
Okay, Rodney and Tyler, roll call?
Brad,
Yes.
Rodney,
Yes.
Tyler,
Yes.
Don,
Yes.
Jody,
Yes.
Harley.
Yes. And number 19, the library renovation project.
This is pay application number 9. On the library, this application is only for $20,705.06. The balance to finish, including retainage, is $340,805.09.
And most of that is that facade? Other
Yes,
than that, the inside's pretty well done?
It's pretty much the facade and then retainage, which makes up that $340.
Okay.
Move to approve the pay app.
I'll second.
Don and Jody, roll call?
Brad,
Yes.
Rodney,
Yes.
Tyler,
Yes.
Don,
Yes.
Jody,
Yes.
Harley.
Yes. Okay, number 20 is the final notification of vacancy and appointment for Planning and Zoning Commission. I believe that's, it's the final, so we can appoint somebody. Do we have any names for Planning and Zoning?
Thought we had one. Did someone recommend someone
I
before? But
think-
I don't know them, so I don't remember the
We
name.
did the airport
The airport.
commission
Was
last
it?
week.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I
Didn't we
don't,
didn't we fill a PNC earlier? That's, but there's a couple that were open, so.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, well, we can work on that. Anybody that's interested in serving planning and zoning, it's actually quite an interesting group to be in, so let us know. Number 21, final notification of vacancy and appointment for the Airport Commission. Any suggestions there?
when I emailed you guys about this here in the cartons is interested.
Oh,
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the name, Barb.
Aaron McCartan.
Okay.
no. Do we have any motions on that?
I guess
He's
I'd
from
make a motion.
Burt? Is there any
He's from
requirement?
Burt. The ordinance allows one seat to be filled from someone outside of town, but they have feet within the county.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion and a second by Jody and Rodney. Roll call?
Brad,
Yes.
Rodney,
Yes.
Tyler,
Yes.
Don,
Yes.
Jody,
Yes.
Harley.
Yes. And then 22 is notification terms expiring for future appointments, Algona Housing Commission. That is just a notification at this meeting. And that completes our regular session. We need to go into closed session now to discuss some matters that are presently in litigation, so we need to be in closed session.
You make a motion to go into closed session?
Yeah, pursuant then.
Pursuant, yep.
To that section.
Yeah, I'd make a motion to, we go into closed session pursuant Iowa Code Section 21.5.1.c.
I'll second.
Okay, Rodney and Jody, roll call?
Yes.
Rodney,
Yes.
Harley,
Yes.
Don,
Yes.
Jody,
Yes.
Harley.
Yes.
For the record, in accordance with the Iowa Public Information Board, Paul Blaster, the city attorney, is the one representing the city during this closed session.
Okay,
Okay.
Okay.
thank you.
Thanks, everyone.